Okay, let's head into 1903 next. Looks like from here, England's in a bit of trouble, but maybe he can work with France. France does have that southern fleet. I'm happy about that because it means that Italy may have something to think about, while Turkey and I can continue doing what we're doing. The only near-term question I have is how is Germany playing with England and France here? Um, Obviously France just took Belgium from him, but if if England does want to work with me, even as I've just taken Norway, um, he and I could work against Germany, and longer term that could be good for me as well because eventually, as Russia grows, Germany is right there. Same thing from Germany's side. It's hard to stay outside of conflict between Russia and Germany in the mid game. I think uh, Doug Moore, who has I think the best German record in tournaments, uh, has talked about having success by growing into Scandinavia first, because that takes care of neutralizing Russia, who is a fast growth country behind you, and then proceeding either into England or France, depending on how the layout of the board feels at that time. Once you've taken Scandinavia, and possibly even STP at that point. So just some wisdom from one of the top players, Doug Moore, on German strategy. And so from Russia's side of the coin, if I feel that Germany is aware of this, maybe I strike first is how I'm approaching. So let's head into '03. So here, for a few players, it's a repositioning of units, even though it's spring. So let's start in the west again. It does look like France now with that retreated English Channel fleet going ahead and playing to Wales here. So England actually attempted a convoy into Norway, probably expecting support from Germany, and just having no allies has to go for that. I think, hoping that Germany flips, given that Germany and France have just started a contest over Belgium. So if Germany, who's being played by Zachary Moore, if Germany made that offer, it's a hard offer to refuse from England's point of view, played by Jake Langenfeld. Since I wasn't offering anything in the north, I have 4 pieces up here, so it's hard for me to offer England something right away. Possibly we could have done something around Denmark, but I also don't have the armies in position to make a really strong move against Germany, and I built North Coast, not South Coast, so I didn't feel like I was ready to do that. So probably from England's position, it's what you have to go for, and if Germany offered that support for the convoy, then from London to Norway, then probably as England, I also try to go for that too. Meanwhile, though, it does prevent him defending against the convoy into Wales, and so France is going to be able to probably start making some gains there, and I'm going to be in that territory soon myself. I'm just repositioning Sweden to Norway and Barents from North Coast, which will now give me actually 2 fleets bordering the Norwegian Sea. So I'll be there soon. But it also, with the adjustments, it also, and this was a nice suggestion from Zach. We were actually both thinking the same thing, but I didn't let him know that I went ahead and just said, hey, that's a great idea. I'll go with that. He actually suggested this exact move set in the north. But what does it actually do for us between our borders? It actually reduces tension, which is good for both of us if we want to continue working versus England for a while here. So my army is now in Sweden, so the Baltic isn't threatened, which is a issue if Russia is in the Baltic, obviously, from Germany's point of view. And so by going ahead and playing this way, we at least reduce tension, and maybe we can work better together in the very near term based upon that. So in the south, even had Austria defended himself here, Budapest was going to be pipped. Given the moveset of the other players, Greece is piffed as well. So Austria will be down to one piece, which is Vienna. And Munich does come to Tyrolia to potentially defend that last Austrian piece. Some reshuffling from France. He does bring the fleet to the south coast. So I think it's a good play from France if he intended all along to go to Wales to build Fleet Marseille, because it at least gives you some disguise when you negotiate around if Wales is a possibility. But that English Channel fleet is just really annoying from England's point of view. So it's nice that he got it in there early from France's perspective. So I think going forward into fall, we're going to just continue seeing, Austria and England face some pressure here. So let's just go ahead and check that out. Okay, so here you have the fall moves. I actually failed to mention that Turkey took the Ionian Sea, which is pretty big because you got in behind Italy here, and I guess that is part of the issue of moving to the Adriatic, is you have less defense, and Turkey is able to pick up Tunis in that case. He could have also picked up Naples. Is one or the other better? I'm not sure. I guess Tunis gives you the option to even play into Tyrrhenian Sea or Western at one point later. So let's stay down in the south, and we see a couple of things happen. This was actually a big move. I wanna show you some of the press, but I don't want to belabor it, so maybe I won't. But at this point, you can see that it looks like both Turkey and Russia go back on. I don't want to say go back on their word versus each other, because it's more about, it looks like we both played against each other, whereas up till this point we were working with each other. So how to explain this? Well, if you recall, in the spring, I actually moved Moscow to Ukraine. So at that point, I remember Turkey, which is being played by George Linkert. And by the way, I really enjoyed working with George. It was easy to collaborate and talk about different ideas. He even suggested piffing my fleet in Romania, which similar to how tension was reduced between Germany and I by putting my army in Sweden, removing that fleet. While maybe it gives Turkey leverage if he wants to do exactly what happens here, moving back to the Black Sea, it also just allows both Russia and Turkey, if they're working together, to be more dynamic, right? So I really like that idea. Just one example of George bringing interesting ideas to the table. And I'm a player who likes different creative ideas, at least exploring them. It's not always available or practical to go with a really creative idea. But I certainly like pontificating about them. So thanks, George, for that. But at this moment, he said, why would you play Moss to Ukraine if not to bounce me in Romania? And our agreement had been that he would pick up Romania here to bring us into balance. So we would be 6-6 or 6-7 in terms of supply center count, and everything would be good. Well, it's a good question. It's a fair question. And my response was, what are my alternatives? I could have played to Warsaw. However, I'm working well with Germany, so I don't want to give Germany an indication that I may be playing to Prussia or Silesia next with Moss to war. And I also could have played Moss to Sev, which now opens up the possibility of playing to Armenia, which is completely unguarded. And so I didn't want to do that because I felt like that would make Turkey feel uncomfortable. At least if I was Turkey, I'd feel uncomfortable about Moss to Sev in spring '03. And by the way, Sev can also play Taram in the same way that Ukraine did here. Um, George did bring up that I could have waived the build. I didn't. I generally don't like waiving builds, but it is true. It could have been a chance to waive a build here if I really wanted to show Turkey that I'm fully on board with this plan. So maybe I consider that in a future game, just to keep the ball rolling with the juggernaut. So something to consider, and I think George, it's a good idea you brought up. But I also at that point started wondering if Turkey was going to suspect me, and this is the problem with having a press game online without any face to face or voice. Um, is that in a face to face game we could have talked it over, and he could see that I didn't intend to do that, um, and I was just putting the army in Ukraine. But as we chatted back and forth or sent messages back and forth, I started to think, gosh, I think George may actually um, be considering moving against me here, as did happen with Aegean to Khan and Khan to Black. And so if that was on the table, then actually I would not like to have him pick up a build, in Ankh and be in Black and be able to, play into Armenia and then into Sev. So I decided to go for the bounce. And you can see, the moves from Italy and Turkey as well. But not only that, I decided to make a more decisive move, not just a defensive move. I thought if there's a reasonable chance this is happening, I may just have to work against Turkey right now and pick up what I can. We've already cleared up Austria, so I can pick up some centers from Turkey next. And maybe I work with Italy then going forward. So that's when I started talking to Germany and Italy more. I said, I'm not so sure about Turkey at this point. And, like, Germany, how about you go for Vienna and Italy, even though I hadn't talked to Italy too much this game. Why don't I offer you Serbia for nothing? So I offered Germany a center and Italy a center for nothing. Mostly just to show goodwill, I guess. But also, I'd rather not ask for them and be on 9 centers here and be a clear leader and probably face some opposition. So I also wanted to play balance of power while maybe picking up some diplomatic points. So that is in a nutshell what I was thinking. It really came down to, and George called this out. There started to be some paranoia around what was going to happen this move. Like building Moss and then playing Moss to Ukraine, which I thought was fine. But from the chat, I don't know what the tenor or tone of the chat was, because it's hard to it's hard to know that for sure. And also, by the way, I didn't even know that George was George. I thought George was Ben at this point. So I think I thought George was Ben Johnson, and Ben Johnson is playing France. I didn't know who Italy was at this point, nor did I know who Germany was at this point. For a long time, I thought that Germany was played by Jake Langenfeld, but England is Jake Langenfeld, and Zachary Moore is Germany. So I was very confused, and that's another interesting case of, like, I don't remember in retrospect how much that played into my decision making, because at this point it's post facto. Like I just don't remember all of those details, but I do remember not exactly knowing who was who and wondering if Turkey was Ben. So yeah, George, I didn't know I was talking to you exactly. I was sort of talking to a few different players who might have been Turkey, if that makes sense. So I don't know if I knew it was you, would I do something different? I don't know. So let's see. I think that pretty much takes care of the East, and in the West, it's pretty straightforward. uh, we actually see we actually just see some movement against England and France, Germany, and Russia doing well as a result of that. So I think that covers 1903. Pretty eventful year, and looking forward to 1904. Thanks, everybody.